Welcome to Jackie's Craft Table. Thanks for joining me today on my blog and YouTube channel. I have two very similar cards that I'd like to show you today. The only difference is the medium that I use to color in my images. For my first card, I'm stamping my images onto a piece of Canson XL watercolor paper. I really like this watercolor paper. I use it a lot. It's very inexpensive, but I think it's a good quality paper. I'm using some VersaFine Onyx black ink because it's a waterproof ink and I'm going to be watercoloring in my images. I'm using my Farm Friends stamps again this week from My Favorite Things. There are so many darling images in this stamp set that you could just create lots and lots of cards with it. I stamped my little cow first and I used a mask to cover him up, and now I'm going to stamp the tree. I want it to appear as though it's behind him. And I didn't stamp the bottom of the tree. I'm just masking it here. I'm going to use my Copic multi-liner to extend the tree trunk so it's a little bit longer. I'm also using my Mini Misty so that I can stamp each image twice. Watercolor paper is a little bit more textured than my Nina Solar White that I usually use. And I press the image into the paper and I hold it for a few seconds so that the ink can soak into the paper. I'm using my favorite little tin box of Prima watercolors. This one is just called the Classics. I'll leave you with the coloring now. I did speed up the video so that it wouldn't last too long, and I'll catch you up at the end. I'm going to set aside my little painting to dry while I pick out some pattern paper for the background. And I just fell in love with these little dots, so I'm going to use that. And I'm also using my stitched banner dies. It comes with several sizes, and it's one of my favorite set of dies. I do use it a lot. I have several different papers that I'm going to use for this card. I pulled out my Sizzix Big Shot machine so that I can cut out several banners and frames for this card. I'm also using one of the larger banners to cut out my little image. I'm creating a standard A2 size card, which is 5.5 by 4.25. It's going to be a top folding card. For this, I'm using some Nina Solar White 110-pound cardstock. I'm going to use the Mini Misty again to stamp out my sentiment. I just don't want to mess it up after all of that work. And I'm using the same ink to stamp that out. Now to assemble my card, and I'm just taping the frame onto my card panel. I'm using some micropore tape for that temporarily. I just need it to hold together so that I can center it onto my card base. Now I can pull off the frame because I'm going to tape on the banners under the frame. Now I'm just working out where I want my banners to be, and I need to trim down my banners just a little bit here. I'm using some scissors to trim them down. It doesn't have to be perfect because the frame is going to hide them. I'm adding some dry adhesive just to the top of my frame. I'm first going to attach them to my frame, and then once I have them where I want them positioned, I can flip the whole piece over and add more dry adhesive to it. I'm adding more micropore tape here just to hold that in place for me while I position my banners. I think the most complicated part of this card for me was trying to adhere everything. I have them positioned on the frame, and now I'm just adding more dry adhesive. And then I can flip it over, cut off the excess with a pair of long scissors, and now I can add more dry adhesive to the frame and to the banners. I have a little bonus card for you. I wanted to try coloring in the same scene with my Copic markers. And I couldn't tell you which medium I like more because they're both so different and both so very fabulous and fun to use. This is a piece of Neenah Solar White 110-pound cardstock, and I used the Simon Says Stamp Intense Black ink on this. I used the largest of my banner dies to cut out this image, and I didn't have to cut out part of the tree. It just fit the whole little image. I'm flipping through my little book of pattern paper, and I decided just to use the same dots. I thought it went well with the little cow image. So this card is very similar to my first card. I'm using my same frame die, but I'm going to also add a smaller frame out of my pink cardstock. This one is also a lot easier to assemble. I also add a few enamel dots to both cards. I couldn't say which card I like better. They were both just a lot of fun to create. I love both watercolors and Copics. Please like, subscribe, and share this video on your favorite social media. I had a lot of fun creating both these cards. Thanks for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye.